Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we are going to be taking a look at the overnight figures for Boom as well as the consolidated figures for Devil's Cord and Space Babies. Full disclosure, when it comes to the consolidated figures for Devil's Cord and Space Babies, I don't think the result is great. I don't think the result's terrible, but I don't think the result's great. If you remember back to my previous video on the viewing figures, I said we really need to wait until the consolidated figures come out before we make a judgment on how Doctor Who is doing, and the consolidated figures are out now, and I don't think they're amazing. The show's not going to end. We know for a fact Season 2 is already in the can, Russell's writing Season 3, and this doesn't include Disney Plus viewership, but even still, for a launch of a new era, I can't lie and say I think these results are amazing, or that I'm not disappointed by these results, because I am. But before we get into any of that, do me a favour, subscribe if you're new. We are trying to get to 25,000 subscribers as quickly as possible, and any support would be greatly appreciated. We're less than 250 subscribers away from 24,000, and any support in helping us get to that goal would be greatly appreciated. But with that said, let's get into it. So I'm going to be using Liz Zimba as a big sort of source for these videos, because he's the entertainment correspondent at the BBC. Last night's Doctor Who episode Boom was watched by 2.04 million UK viewers according to BARB overnight figures. These won't include people who watched early on iPlayer, so the overnights are much less significant than the consolidated, which will include those numbers plus catch-up. So yeah, this is just the overnight figure for Boom, not including iPlayer or any of that. And then, so he says for context, Britain's Got Talent won the night with 4.1 million, then 1% Club at 3.58, then the ITV News at 2.21. Doctor Who was fourth of the day and most watched for the BBC, but with Doctor Who comparisons to previous series, overnights are unfair because of the early iPlayer drop. So a good thing to at least note here, because it's not all doom and gloom, Doctor Who did come fourth overall this Saturday, even with the midnight handicap, and was still the highest viewed thing on the BBC overall that day, despite a good chunk of the viewers watching it before it went out on broadcast. When it comes to the consolidated figures, though, I have to admit the figures are a little bit less positive. Doctor Who's 7-day catch-up viewing figures have now been published by the BARB. Space Babies at 4.01 million, The Devil's Cord at 3.91 million. 10th and 12th most watched programmes of the week, 4th and 5th most watched BBC shows of the week. So again, not a terrible result. The fact that Doctor Who made it into the top 10 is a good thing. However, considering how big the promo for this was, I was expecting it to chart a little bit higher. I mean, it's been all over the BBC socials, on every channel, it's been on interviews, radio interviews, podcasts, it's been everywhere. So I am surprised by the relatively low number for a launch of a brand new series. Obviously, given the time of the year and where everything else was charting, I mean, if we look at the charts here, Eurovision was always going to clean up with, nearly 8 million viewers. I wasn't expecting Doctor Who to beat out the Eurovision Song Contest. That was always going to be an extremely unlikely goal. Same goes for Britain's Got Talent, to be honest. But I would have liked to see it beat Coronation Street as it did during the 60th specials, which were still a success and significantly stronger than these, alongside the Gatwa Christmas special that had 7.49 million viewers consolidated, which was very good. This, by contrast, is quite a drop. Now, I'm going to get into why I think that is in a little bit, but let's just read TV Zone's reporting on it first. Ratings: Doctor Who premiere consolidates to over 4 million viewers. Doctor Who returned to screens on Saturday 11th of May with a double wheel premiere on BBC One, BBC iPlayer and Disney Plus worldwide. Space Babies aired at 6:20 BST on BBC One to an audience of 2.6. Devil's Cord followed with 2.4. These figures did not include BBC iPlayer or the 18 hours before it aired on BBC One or those who watched on devices. BARB have now released officially the 7-day consolidated ratings for the first 2 episodes of the new season. These figures include those who watched on BBC iPlayer and devices. Space Babies launched with 4.008 million, followed by The Devil's Cord with 3.909 million. For context, these 2 episodes were 10th and 12th most watched programmes of the week. Again, not a bad figure, but for how much it was promoted, I was expecting it to chart a little bit higher than that. Of the week across all linear TV channels and streaming services. And then TV Zone has their own little diagnosis of what's gone wrong. What's gone wrong, launching in May, was always going to be difficult. The gap between Christmas and May seems to have killed the momentum which followed the 60th and Christmas specials. The good news, there is no chance of the show being cancelled, 0 chance, and the BBC could always rethink the release schedule, the time of year, though the midnight drop is probably here to stay for next year. And yeah, just for a little bit of extra clarification, because I've seen some confusion about this, TV Zone have said that the consolidated figures do include those who watched up to midnight, as well as those who watched after midnight, and TV viewers and everything else. It basically includes everything. So I just thought I'd clarify that before people ask. According to TVZone, at least, this includes everyone who watched it up until this first 7 days. So yeah, in terms of results, it's not a great result, but it's also not the end of the world. As I said, we know that Doctor Who's secured for at least another second series, and Russell seems to be writing a third, and this also doesn't factor in Disney Plus numbers, and there is, as TVZone says, very, very little chance that the BBC axes Doctor Who for one very simple reason, is that even if viewing figures are on a decline, it's still an incredibly commercially profitable franchise for the BBC, one of their few franchises that they can actually merchandise out and make money out of in other ways. I mean, just recently, the Doctor Who prom tickets went on sale, and they sold out the Royal Albert Hall not once but twice in the span of about 2 hours, totaling up to about 10,000 tickets. So Doctor Who is still an incredibly profitable and lucrative IP for the BBC. However, I would be lying if I said these figures were great. If I had to guess, I think May might have been a bit of a dead time to release these things. With the exception of Eurovision, if you look at the week, nothing really gets much higher than about 5 million anyway, compared to last November, for example, when you had things like I'm a Celebrity getting 9, 10 million viewers and Doctor Who falling at about 7. So I think the May release time might be a bit of a poison chalice for the show. Equally, I do think this midnight dropping business could lead to an unfortunate side effect of it being seen as less appointment viewing in the UK. What I don't think it is, and I want to make it fully clear, I don't think it's got anything to do with wokeness or anything like that, because most of the general public don't even know what those words mean. They just don't. They don't care. They care about whether it's good or not. And whilst I enjoyed these episodes, I'm not going to say that I think that these numbers are great, because they're not. But it is also worth noting that Boom was received largely incredibly positively from what I saw. So there is a chance that good word of mouth could help it a bit. But for a launch of a brand new era, just scraping 4 million, I was expecting a little bit more than that with the iPlayer numbers. Again, we don't have full context really because we don't know how it's doing on Disney, and from everything I can find about how it's doing on Disney, it's doing pretty well. There is this website that shows where shows are ranking country by country on Disney Plus, and in multiple territories it's in the top 10. I think last I checked in the US it was at number 8 on Disney Plus, which is pretty good going considering how much Disney have, and it was being out I think all the Star Wars stuff. So if Disney are happy with it, we'll be fine. The concern I have is I still want it to be doing well over here, And I do think that maybe the midnight thing might have slightly shot them in the foot in terms of how it does here, because I think there's less urgency to watch it now than there was with previous series. But let me know in the comments below what you think about this. I'm sure this will be an absolutely wonderful comment section where absolutely no one throws ad hominems at each other. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.